Hey fans, welcome back to the channel here. This is Washington Football Maniacs channel here on YouTube. I'm also on Rumble, so check that out. I will be expanding to other places as well, so you're going to want to check that out. I will have links in the description and all over this glorious website. But anyway, if you want to support this channel, please consider subscribing to this channel. And with that said, let's get into today's video, shall we? So we're talking about Jason Wright. His comments, he just wants this whole sell thing to be over with. Don't we all, Jason? We all want this to be over. Jason Wright. Here's the funny thing. A lot of folks are talking about Jason Wright being one of the Dan Snyder stooges. Now, I don't know if that's exactly true or not, because Jason Wright seems like he was somebody that was kind of almost given to the Washington franchise when Snyder was really being forced to take a deep inner look into the franchise and make some cultural changes. And I'm not really sure if Wright was someone that Snyder came out and hired, or if he was kind of appointed to him, so to speak. So I don't know if I would call Jason Wright a stooge. I think that's a little insulting. I think that Jason Wright needs to be given an opportunity to work under new ownership. I think Wright is a very intelligent individual, and I think given an opportunity, he can do a fantastic job for the franchise. But at any rate, the Washington Commanders team president Jason Wright spoke with the reporters this week at the NFL owners' meetings. Wright went on on the record to say, yes, the Commanders were being sold, so we know that there's no more of this, oh, Snyder's going to keep the team. This has all been just a big ruse. No, I've been saying this all along. The team is going to get sold. I don't know what the indicators they're given that they're not. Wright told the Washington Times. What signals are they given that they're not selling the team? Later in the interview, Wright said the Commanders would receive a significant boost from selling the team, while some took that as a shot at owners Dan and Tanya Snyder. That's not what Wright meant. Anytime you sell a franchise, it should be good for business, at least initially. In Washington's case, it should be even more significant. Not only does the potential new ownership or potential new owner come in as a popular man because he's replacing Snyder, but relationships that were previously over are also now back on the table. And once the relationships could be with the Washington, D.C. government. And of course, we're talking about a stadium deal. And of course, when we're talking about a stadium deal, we're talking about RFK, that site being back on the table. And that is certainly a very popular site. We would love to see Washington, that football franchise, back at RFK. And it goes on to say that Jason Wright says, I just want it to be done. And I think that's what everybody else would like to, including Dan and Tanya. Wright tells JP Finlay when discussing two of Washington's potential new owners, I think this is a process that when there are speculative reports, they tend to slow down the process. It's interesting to hear Wright say Dan Snyder even wants this to be over with. He's come a long way from saying he'd never sell the franchise he loved as a child. And what's more is that if we go back and we also take a look at what Jason Wright said, and I was trying to find that article as well. Jason Wright was question was asked about would the new owners come in and talked about another rebranding, and that's also been a hot topic that's been floating around social media as well. A lot of fans, if you look at the polls, at least over 70% of the fans do not like Commanders as the brand of the Washington football team. They would love for that name to be changed. They feel like it's got Dan Snyder stink all over it. They just feel like that it's such a generic sounding name. It was not a name that anybody was really wanting. And when we got it, we were like, eh, you know, um, nobody really cares so much about the logo. My wife is a fantastic graphic designer. Honestly, she could have designed a fantastic logo for the team. So much better than that. I mean, shoot, I could even use AI art and give you something better than that. I don't consider myself a graphic designer. So, you know, a lot of people just don't like it. Now, then you got the other half in social media that feels like because that we got a lot of fans saying, let's hope that there's also a rebrand, then suddenly those people are like, hey, look, those people over there care more about a rebrand than winning. That's not true. That is not true. The point is that a lot of people would love to have a clean slate altogether, to get rid of everything that Dan Snyder tried to do to this franchise, including giving them such a generic sounding name, and just start over again. Give the fans something they want. A winning franchise, most definitely, but B, a cool nickname that everybody has been wanting anyway. Now, you can argue if that's Red Wolves or Red Tails, anything that's got red in, or obviously we're not going to go back to Redskins. I would love that, but that's not going to be a thing. And it's not to say that it has to be one or the other. And it's not to say that you have to start the entire process all over again. I really tend to think that because supposedly they went through this such a long process just to get to something so generic as Commanders, that I would say that having looked at such fan favorite names as like Red Wolves or Red Hogs or Red Tails or whatever it was, that they probably put a lot of time and effort into a lot of that. Warriors, whatever it is, they could easily go back and pick up where they left off on that. I don't think they would have to go back through a long legal process. I think if they really want to rebrand, they could do it. Now, yes, certainly you're looking at the cost. And maybe right away, the new ownership is not going to come in wanting to take on that cost. I can see that. They're going to want to look at a stadium deal. That I totally get. We want to secure a good stadium deal. And I think for the most part, a lot of people would like to see that back in DC at RFK. I would love to see them playing at the old RFK site again. I'm not certainly, not the building. You want to build a state of art stadium there, but I think a lot of people would feel like that this team is truly a DC team being back at RFK, and that will probably more than likely be back on the table with new ownership. So, this whole thing about will there be a new rebranding with a new ownership? Probably not right away, but for anyone to say that that is definitely not on the table, I never say never to anything. And I think truly, I would also say this. Jason Wright said that the new owners are businessmen. Well, guess what? But if you're businessmen, you also want to make sure that you make your customers happy. Businessmen who are smart want to make their customers happy. You want to make your customers happy, then you want to give them what they want. And what do they want? Majority of them they want another name change. They want another rebrand because they just simply don't like the Commanders. And I think that is definitely on the table. It may not be right away. Maybe a few years down the road after they have gotten a stadium deal, after they built the stadium, it may take a little bit, but guarantee, I don't think that that's completely out of the conversation whatsoever. I think that could definitely be back on the table. And who knows? Maybe it could be something with Native American imagery. It may not be the Redskins. It may be Warriors. They may be able to do this the right way to where they partnership with local tribes, and they do that to sponsor them, to bring money and funds and support those tribes financially. And I think certainly if they do that, they would be more than happy for this franchise to honor them with Native American imagery. You know, a lot of this came down to money. That's what I always said before. Came down to the money, came down to the fact that no one liked Dan Snyder. So what better way to hit him than to hit him with his beloved Redskins and getting rid of that? So that a lot of this is my opinion, but I would guarantee that a lot of there's probably some truth to a lot of that. And so overall, I think here it is. Never say never to anything. There's never totally one way or the other. I think there's going to be a rebrand possibly down the road, but it's not going to be right away. I think you're going to have an ownership that's going to come in that's going to promise to provide you a winning football team on the field, but they're going to promise you the state-of-the-art stadium at a site where everybody wants the stadium to be at. You're going to get all of that first, and then maybe, and who knows, once you start seeing the winning, maybe you don't really care so much for the name change. You know, at the end of the day, if you're getting Super Bowl championships, hey, it's all Washington, right? Folks, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Smash that like button. Leave me a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think about all of it. Share it with your buddies. And with that said, thanks for tuning in to the Washington Football Maniacs. I will see you yet in the next one. Hey, you stayed until the very end. Thank you so much. Watch another one right now.